Hey guys, so I just had a question on PM, which I answered for a member about BMI, body mass index. And as I often say, I know that if one person has a question or anything they're unsure about or struggling with or want clarity on, they won't be the only one. So obviously answering their question, but also putting the answer out there for other people will be beneficial to other people because there may be 10 or 50 or 100 other people who've got the same thing that they'd like to hear about. And this question, like I said, was about BMI, body mass index. For anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's your weight in kilos divided by your height in meters squared. So an easier way, rather than squaring it, is to divide by your height in meters twice. So let's say you weigh 100 kilos and your height in meters is 1.8. Do 100, divide by 1.8, divide by 1.8. And according to the categories, if your BMI is between 18.5 and 25, that's considered ideal, shall we say. Below 18.5 is underweight, 25 to 30 overweight, over 30 obese. And BMI is often put down by a lot of people in the fitness industry. And until only a handful of years ago, I was one of those people. I subscribed to the BMI is pointless and useless argument. And the truth is, it's actually reasonably accurate. It's not the best thing to measure, but it's probably one of the simplest ones and one of the ones that can quickly and easily give people a reasonably accurate indicator as to whether their weight is perhaps where maybe it could get to. It's less accurate the shorter and taller you are, but for the vast majority of people, it's reasonably accurate. The argument people will often put as to why it's inaccurate is they'll say it doesn't take into account muscle mass, but it does. Apart from, again, those outliers. So unless you have really, really, really high muscle mass, it's fairly accurate. People often say it's not very good for bodybuilders or rugby players. But what percentage of the population is a bodybuilder or a rugby player? Under 1%, I would have thought. And out of that under 1%, what percentage of those does BMI not work for? What percentage of bodybuilders and rugby players have an obese BMI and a non-obese body fat percentage? A percentage of those. So we're talking a fraction of a single percent of people for whom there's an argument to be made that it's not very accurate. So for 99% plus of people, it's reasonably accurate. If your BMI is 30 odd, you could lose an amount of weight and definitely get it down into the 25 to 30 range. Whether or not you want to or are going to, it's entirely up to you. It's your body. You do what you want with it. But you could. You could get the weight down into that range without being, shall we say, underweight. And often from my experience, and again, this is my own experience, when people are most critical of BMI, it's when it gives them a BMI that is higher than perhaps they think they should have. I remember at one point my BMI was approaching 30 when I was a lot bigger muscle-wise, but I was also carrying a lot more body fat. When I got really lean about a year ago, just in time for my 40th birthday, my BMI was smack in the middle of the recommended range. So it turns out actually, out of that extra weight that contributed to my BMI being nearly 30, nearly obese, a fairly high proportion of that was body fat. Ultimately, I had more body fat than I thought I did. In retrospect, I was fatter than I realized. And again, I didn't have to change that, and no one has to change it. But BMI is, the research, the studies show, a reasonably accurate tool to give a